French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius presented a landmark global climate accord on Saturday 12th, an historic measure for transforming the world's fossil fuel-driven economy within decades and during the tide on the global warming. At the tail end of the hottest year of record and after 4 years of fraught United Nations talks opened, pitting the interests of rich nations against poor, imperiled island states against rich economic powerhouses. Fabius urged officials from nearly 200 nations to support what he hopes will be a final deal.
It confirms our key, even vital objective to contain the rise of global temperatures far below 2 degrees and effort a limitation of this rise to 1.5 degrees, which should make it possible to reduce significantly the risks and impacts of climate change.
A peaceful protest rallying for indigenous peoples right outside the Notre Dame in Paris was shut down by police Saturday due to the continued security concerns following the Paris attacks on November 13th. Demonstrators gathered to mark the end of the 21st United Nations Climate Change Conference to campaign for the justice of communities impacted by climate change. The peaceful protesters dressed up in indigenous dress and displayed environmentally driven posters, some of which said, "Defend, discard, protect the water." The group were then met by a deployment of armed police who went on to shut the demo down. Dozens of protesters blocked one of the main streets in Chicago Friday to protest against police brutality and to demand the resignation of the mayor of the city, Rahm Emanuel. The rally was part of a series of protests that erupted after Emanuel addressed the city council on Wednesday. Earlier on Friday, a group of demonstrators rallied outside Chicago City Hall demanding Emanuel's resignation. McDonald was killed in October 2014 after being shot 16 times by white police officer Jason Van Duke. Van Duke was charged with first-degree murder for killing the teenager and is currently being held without bond.
I will not sleep until we have new leadership in Chicago. Yes, sir. I will not sleep until we have a new CPD culture in our neighborhood.
In his first day in office, President Mauricio Macri presented his cabinet. He met also 2 former presidential candidates to discuss the main challenges facing the country, but the right-wing businessman made no concrete commitments.
We had a very useful talk about the areas of agreement we had during the presidential campaign and about working together on a common agenda in Congress to find solutions to the problems Argentinians have.
But from this very first day in the presidential palace, Macri faced protests. His attempts to remove Argentina's general attorney brought immediate reaction from the opposition.
General Attorney's term in office is determined by the Constitution, and she was elected by Congress in accordance with the law, so she must remain in office. The move by Macri's government is against the law. We find it arbitrary and authoritarian.
Macri's plans are still vague, but the general economic measures announced by his ministers have already triggered a rise in the price of several basic consumer goods, something that doesn't sit easily with his campaign speeches about fighting poverty. Laureano Ponce, Telesur, Buenos Aires.